Hi, and welcome to the Ask Dr. Angela podcast with everyone's favorite OBGYN, Dr. Angela Jones. Have you ever been too embarrassed or shy to ask your own doctor about your, girl parts? Well, you've come to the right place to get straight answers. Feel free to ask Dr. Angela anything women's health related. Obstetrics and gynecology? She keeps it real. Pregnancy? She's been there, done that. Menopause? She'll get you through. Young or old, Dr. Angela's got you covered, girl. Now here's Dr. Angela.
What's good, people? This is Dr. Angela, everyone's favorite OBGYN, and it's so good to be here. I'd like to welcome you to episode 326 of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. In case you are checking out the background, my surroundings, I'm sitting at a poker table, not currently gambling, but maybe once we get beyond this social distancing, I'll be able to come back and hang out with my friends at a shared universe. This is my guy, Ming et al.'s studio, and it's amazing. It has everything that you would ever want to see. I happen to be, as you all know, a huge Star Wars fan, and I think you see a stormtrooper mask behind me. You see Captain America. I'm sure you've seen me wearing a Captain America t-shirt. It's just an amazing space, and I love being here, and I'm so grateful that you allowed me to be in your studio today. So today's podcast is one of many queries that I get on a daily basis. As you all know, I get queries from media outlets just really all over the world, but this one comes to us from Women's Health. And I really like answering the questions that they pose to me because a lot of times when it's featured in the publication, you kind of get the Reader's Digest version as opposed to the entire answer. So Women's Health actually asked me a couple of weeks ago about just periods, and they asked me several questions about periods. And so I thought that I would, share their questions and then give you my responses. So the first thing that they asked me, they said, Dr. Angela, how can being on your period impact your energy levels? And so, this answer is kind of twofold. I mean, some women might agree that being on your period can be exhausting. Not only are you dealing with the fatigue that can be associated with losing a large amount of blood, some more than others, but certainly the emotional and sometimes the mental stress that comes with being on a period. I mean, tell me that you have never been stressed about worrying about whether or not you're going to bleed through your outfit. I mean, I think all women have certainly experience that. But then on the other hand, you have some women that feel like they're more energized during their period. And certainly all the highs and lows and the, emotional flux that can be experienced, even with regards to energy levels, has to do with the fluctuating hormonal levels that women, experience during the time of their period. And so, the next thing that they asked me was, so should you change anything about your diet when you're on your period and training super hard? So first of all, if you're training super hard, I'm going to hope that you're eating a good diet, But if you're not training super hard and you're just like a regular old Joanne that, is just maybe exercising, maybe not, I would tell you that your diet absolutely can impact some of the symptoms that you're having on your period. Certainly things that you'll want to avoid include those things that we all crave, sugar, caffeine, etc. Certainly avoiding these things will help avoid extreme highs and lows. You get so souped up after having a lot of sugar and then, a lot of caffeine only to have that sudden crash where you're just exhausted and feeling, completely miserable. Avoiding foods that kind of contribute to things like bloating, gas, etc., is also a good idea because certainly secondary to some of the hormones that are released during your menstrual cycle, gas, bloating are pretty normal symptoms that you experience. So certainly foods that might contribute to giving you more of those symptoms are things like flour, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and foods that certainly are high in salt. Salt certainly is something that will cause you to retain fluid, hence bloating, and hence, the normal gaining of that 3 to 5 pounds that most women gain around the time of their period. but no worries. You typically, get rid of that after your cycle. Foods that will help contribute to fewer menstrual cramps and pain include things like, fruits and vegetables. So this is a good time to boost, your consumption of fruits and vegetables. Foods that are certainly high in things like omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, tuna, walnuts, etc. will help you with this. Eating foods that have a high iron content will also help to battle feelings of like exhaustion and fatigue. Again, some women bleed a lot during the time of their period. And so certainly, replenishing your body with foods that have high iron content will help you to battle, those feelings of fatigue. And so certainly examples of that are going to include things like oysters, beef, for my vegan and vegetarian folks, tofu, and who doesn't like chocolate? Dark chocolate is actually a really good indication for this. And so this next question actually made me smile. And it certainly said, how can being on your period impact your ability to complete a full training session or game? And I just kind of laughed because when has being on a flipping period ever prevented any woman from doing what she has to do? I mean, women work full-time jobs. We run marathons. We do everything. I don't know that a period certainly prevents you from being able to do what you have to do. But having said that, there are ways to kind of make your life better or to be more prepared for some of those side effects and symptoms that you might have during your period. And certainly those things I mentioned above. Certainly exercise. You guys know I'm a huge lifestyle advocate. So eating well and exercising will actually help to boost your energy levels and also decrease some of the symptoms, specifically, cramping, mood lability, etc. And so certainly, if you're someone that experiences super back cramps, fatigue, heavy bleeding while you're on your period, I certainly would encourage you to reach out to your friendly OBGYN, because the thing that I always like to let women know is your period does not have to make your life miserable. You don't get any badge or, reward or honorarium for dealing with bad periods. I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. So certainly if you feel like your periods are too heavy, they're too painful, they're interfering with your quality of life, please see your OBGYN, because number one, we can decide and figure out what's going on and then offer you some treatment options to help you better be able to quote and continue to live your best life. So boom, that's it. That was a lot. Women's Health asked me a lot about periods. So I think that we answered a lot of really good questions about periods. So hopefully, you all got something out of this. So there's another podcast done in the books, as is the usual. Thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast. I'm actually really excited. I have to tell you a really funny story. Because of all of the social distancing, I haven't been able to do my regular kind of video sessions where I pick a topic and then just talk about it. And I'm usually all dressed up and, all that stuff, or maybe not so dressed up, but it's usually a little bit more formal than this. Well, it's been really nice because I've started to actually feature my recorded podcast on my YouTube channel. And so this is actually a really funny story for you. So my guy, Michael at Moon Lasso, who typically does all my video productions, he gave me a camera setup so that I could set it up. I could see myself recording, whatever. I had done 10 podcasts. And then one morning I woke up and I sat down to podcast and it dawned upon me, I had not pushed the flipping video record. Exactly. I felt like the biggest idiot. So there's a whole slew of podcasts that the audio actually is up, but there's no video. So I'm actually really excited to have this opportunity to give a video performance. So in closing, thank you all so much for tuning into today's podcast. I certainly hope that you got something out of it. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Angela, everyone's favorite OBGYN. You can find me at www.askdrangela.com. That's AskDrangela.com. There you can sign up for my weekly blog post, my podcast, my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on all of my social media channels. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. In closing, I'm going to leave you with this, another saying from I think we're going to go with Life's Little Instruction Book. We all know that I need instruction in my life. We all do. So this is actually lesson number 332, and I like this one. It says, live your life as an exclamation, not an explanation. I'm going to say that again. Live your life as an exclamation, not an explanation. Until next time, remember, choose happiness. I cannot wait to reconnect with you on episode 327 of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. For more information on women's health and the show notes for this episode, please visit Dr. Angela at www.askdrangela.com. While you're there, don't forget to leave your own message for Dr. Angela. See you soon! All of the information provided and discussed in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not take the place of consulting a physician. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease or illness and does not and should not replace treatment from a medical professional.